we are taught.
Sorry, I thought to start recording now. It's getting interesting. Yeah, sorry, could you repeat the last bit for the recording?
So I mean, that got me thinking that isn't this actually how the world has been structured, at least in the 21st century, where with this great focus of, ever since like the, sort of like the unipolar world and like consumer driven politics and so on, where, everything really is about how do I advance myself in the world? If I don't go to college and get certain degrees, then I won't get a job. And in the workplace, I have to be so and so and so in order to reach this goal. And I must have a 5-year goal and a 10-year goal. Otherwise, what am I doing? And so on. And that is very much the world that we live in, socially constructed as it is. So given that, it's almost like going against the grain when you encounter a philosophy such as the Buddha's philosophy, because that's I mean, it's so difficult for me personally to plug myself out and insert myself into this sort of reflective and a greater thinking mind, maybe. Yeah, that's all I had to say. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Well, it's interesting, a few interesting things there. The world we live in. That's very interesting, the world we live in. The world you live in is not the world I live in. Not because, if you went to Shankar Market, you'd find another market there, which is not called Shankar Market. No, but the way I perceive the world, Shankar Market, the metro, my life, is going to be subtly different from the way you experience it, let alone how an animal experiences it. If I took an animal on the metro and to Shankar Market, well, they're sniffing the other dogs, and having a totally different experience. And not only animals, but there's this famous teaching, you could say, that is constantly reiterated in our tradition. If you take a glass of water, right? For human beings, it's a glass of water, right? Give and take. Okay, some people may spit it out like Captain Haddock because it's not whiskey, but it's water, yeah? We agree it's water. And it's water kind of for an animal, but without the name, I guess. Even for a talking parrot, it may be able to say water and it understands water, but anyway, for a deva, there are beings called devas, not human beings, there are godlike beings, according to Buddha. We can't see them, but they exist, apparently. They have a different view of the world. For them, what we conceive as water is amrit, is nectar. And don't forget, different people, even humans within the human realm, within one family, can have such different attitudes towards water, right? Especially perhaps when we're younger. When we're younger, we don't want so much water. We want tasty, sweet juice or something, Water is kind of ugh, Anyway, whatever. For the hungry ghost or the pret, there are also unfortunate beings which we call hungry ghosts in English, pret in Hindi. They exist, according to Buddha. I can't see them. I can very well imagine that they can exist. In fact, I believe they do exist, but without having seen them. I very much feel that's possible and is so. So when a preta looks at this, experiences this, what we call water, that poor being, due to its karmic obscurations and its particular projection of this world, it experiences pus and blood. What we saw as water and experienced as water, what the deva experienced as amrit, nectar, the hungry ghost experiences as pus and blood, something disgusting. I guess the hell being, who are in a kind of hellish experience, again, made, self-projected, not put there by God or Buddha or the devil, our own projection, they might not even see the water, or it might be some kind of fire or and so forth, who knows. But those three experiences have been mentioned: the human, the animal, the deva, and the pret. So that's one aspect that I got out of what you said. And of course, yeah, our whole way we experience the world is conditioned by what other people are doing, what our peer groups are doing, the mediums we are using, the technology we are using, the way the world of work, the emphasis on having and getting and so-called economic progress rather than the cultivation of character, good qualities, wholesome qualities, an emphasis on competition rather than love, of course. And all of these things are actually very relevant to the text that we might be looking at soon, because this text is about engaging in a way of life where we are more and more and more shedding, this need to hold on, shedding this need to perpetuate our own ignorant bubble, our own ignorant perception based on this I, me, mine. That the cognitive mistake we've made is clinging on to a solid I. The behavioral corollary of that is that we're going to behave selfishly, self-centeredly, isn't it? In all manner of ways. Yeah. And if you have a whole bunch of basically self-centered people working together, running the world, then poor world, it's not going to survive for long in a happy state, just as we ourselves are a bundle of contradictions and confused and unhappy emotions and so forth. So yeah, that's just my response to what you said. I think it was more a statement, right? You weren't asking a question, and that is fine. That's very good. Unless there was a question I missed. Was there anything there, or did you just want to share your perspective on the insanity and of course you mentioned the fact that Buddhism is going against the grain. Absolutely. I'd mentioned on Tuesday what one teacher had reminded us, that we shouldn't come to Buddhism for our comfort alone, that we should be prepared for our comfortable view of the world to be torpedoed. It's not a comfortable view of the world, actually. It's totally wrong, and it's a suffering view. But because it's what we're used to, we cling to it. So we should expect it to be turned upside down by the teachings of the Buddha. Buddha is not here to massage our egos, He's not kind of a spiritual spa or sauna or massage. And like the Guru, the authentic Guru, they're there to insult our egos, not build them up. Because the ego and the self-cherishing attitude are the source of all of the suffering that ever existed and does exist and will exist, according to the teachings. The self-cherishing, self-grasping attitude and all of its permutations. Yeah. What do you think about that? Folks? Yep, Saurabh, Sagar, Anushri, Sudiksha, the silent majority.
Yep.
Our eyes awake, sink not into the world. These are the words from the Dhammapada.
Yes, so
Saurabh, bataiye.
I would like to talk about the sense of me that you discussed in this. So
I see. I hope you have a sense of me.
Yeah, of course,
Not
that
just
is
me,
why.
not just me who has a sense of me.
Yeah. So, but as you said that it is discontinuous, and
Based
somehow
on?
it is not continuous sense of me, and it is discontinuous. Like sometimes sense of me is there and sometimes it is not. Like when we are sleeping, it is not, or when we are indulge in any kind of activity like playing badminton or doing some job, we don't have that sense of me.
Really? Wow, lucky you. When you're
I
playing
think
badminton, you don't feel competitive and in that sense, and you don't feel upset when you miss a shot or the other side wins.
that okay, fine, that is the later point of time, not during the
Later.
playing that. Yep. So it is relative kind of. Once I miss something, then I go in past and see that okay, I missed something, then there is a repent, not at that moment.
I see.
So yep.
So there are moments of non-self, non-me.
Exactly. But somehow this sense of me, when it arises at any moment, it links to the past, and it creates the illusion that like there is a continuation. But here I think you are pointing out that there is no continuation in that. But
well,
somehow
we think there's a continuation, don't we? And we are, in a sense, a slave of that continuation, might you say? In the sense that I still identify with what I was yesterday and last year and perhaps even earlier. And that's part of who I think I am. So I'm a little bit under the control of that identity. Would you agree? Say you were a good badminton player last year and the year before, and you feel that for some reason your play is deteriorating now. So you are affected by, you would be affected by your identity as a good badminton player. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Or the other way around. You could still identify with being a not very good player, and you are getting better. And you're either getting proud about getting better, or you feel, well, perhaps this isn't really happening. I'm really not really that good still. And you're still affected by your identity as a not very good player.
Yep.
Yeah,
that
anyway,
is true.
go on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, that is good. You can interrupt anytime. So that is true. But the point here is that those teachers or enlightened beings, they are pointing out that if it is discontinuous and like it is happening at one time, then another time, then how this linking is happening? Who is doing this linking and making it continuous and make it feel that last year I was not good and this year now I'm good, and there is a progress, there is a continuation. And like you also said that since morning you are you have many thoughts, and willingly you are not having that thoughts, they are just appearing one after another. So like not the thoughts are linking this, like one thought linking to another thought, and that is why this continuation is appearing.
Yes. Okay, so let me say something maybe. Have you finished? Would you like to say some more?
No, you can talk about this. If something is left, then again I can ask.
You see, I went somewhere today where I hadn't been for 30, 35 years. And one of the places was linked to a place my father used to take me to meet a good friend of his. So I went there just because I had some time, and it was very close to Shankar Market. So I went there, and it had changed a lot. The office that had been there was no longer there. So a part of me is walking and being in the present moment to some extent, but my memories are taking me back 30, 35 years, okay, to being with my father and seeing this other person. So there's a continuity, there's memory. But the point is, there is a mental factor, there are different functions in this so-called mind, okay? There's memory, there's all sorts of factors, right? There's discrimination, there's all sorts of discernments happening. But the point here is the ego or the self wants to appropriate it and say it's me and build a kind of continuity out of it. Whereas a more awakened way to look at it is to, okay, yeah, there are these memories coming up of when I went there with my father. Yeah, they're just thoughts, they're just memories coming up, but I'm not using them to build up some kind of solid, continuous sense of self. It's just a memory. It's a dream now, in a sense. Everything has changed. Those buildings are still there, but they're just more and more decrepit, those buildings, and actually rather, yeah, very unsightly. Some of them even were abandoned. And there were some nice cars out of some, outside some of them, which was a very strange kind of disconnect. These nice cars outside some of these very ramshackle buildings. So anyway, the point is you can have moment by moment awareness of things, and awareness that your mind has also gone into the past, all these memories from that area, from that era. But doesn't mean we have to build that up into a sense of a continuous solid me. That's just thoughts. They're just thoughts about the past. Yeah, that happened. It did happen that I went there with my father, but so what? Things are happening all the time, moment by moment, things are happening. But we want to grasp them and make them into some kind of solid thing that I am experiencing. Some kind of solid self is experiencing these solid memories and solid ups and downs of life and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. It's like we cannot just let things happen. They have to be happening to me, you know? They have to be happening to me.
Yeah,
hurting me or making me feel good or not making me feel good or whatever, you know? Just a sec, Nitya, did you want to respond to that sort of? Were you about to say something?
No,
Bataiye?
Before that, I want to make a point what you said just.
Okay, and then Nitya. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So like you said that you went to a market and some past memory arises, and then there is a illusion, or you are saying a dream.
It's like a dream.
It's like a dream.
Because what happened did happen. I did go there with my father several times, but it doesn't mean that I'm a solid, continuous I, just because that was experienced.
Yeah.
So the question always comes back to who is this, what is this so-called person? That's what we come back to.
But the problem here is that the thought which is arising, it is not in our control, because they are spontaneous, or they are coming because like I'm speaking, I don't know what is the next sentence I'm going to speak until it arises in my mind.
About that.
Like I don't know what would be the next thought. It is coming to my mind as a stream.
But often it's determined by what I'm thinking right now. Like I started walking towards that area very deliberately in order to see whether that office was still there. So the thoughts that then arose were connected with that. But I agree, there was a fruit market on the way. So then my mind was distracted by fruit.
Right,
and
but the question is that
buy bananas to take them home because I thought they'd be cheaper than horse cars, but I didn't buy them. I think I should.
So it seemed that I decided to go that market, but the question is why that thought is arrived at that time.
Anyway, stay with that. Yeah. I mean, why it arose, there could be many reasons.
Yes, if it is based on the situation, if it is based on the situation, then we don't have any control. If it is based on,
but that's a good point. It just shows how out of control we are. So if we were a solid, continuous self, we should have a lot more control than we have, but we don't, which shows there's something else happening. There is no solid I, and part of our problem is, of course, the world isn't under our control as much as we'd like it to be, right? Neither is our world, neither is our mind. And what we are under the control of is, our mind with its various moods and thoughts and feelings, many of which are disturbing. And this is exactly what one very great Tibetan master, Lama Tsongkhapa, says. He says the reason we need to meditate and work on our mind is because up to now, we have been the slaves of our mind. We have not been in control of our mind. Of course, that brings up other so-called problems, but his point is yeah, all this random stuff coming up, and we have no control over it. And it's affecting my moods and my life, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, think about these things. Let's have other people. Nitya, and then someone else, please, who hasn't spoken yet.
Sure.
No, I think it's already been discussed. I just wanted to talk about the purpose of the visit, potentially bringing up, you know, the memory track of the mind.
Right.
So that's all I wanted to say. It's already been talked about.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? The point teachers are making is that the ego, this sense of I, me, mine, is also always trying to perpetuate itself, maintain itself. There's this fear of space, fear of oblivion, fear of, fear of not having any ground under our feet, kind of thing. So we are constantly devising entertainments for ourselves in the form of distractions, thinking, fantasies, grabbing something to eat, you know, doing this, doing that, checking the weather, checking Netflix, checking the news, checking, doing things all the time. Because then there's a gap, when there's a space, wow, well, that's, nothing's happening in space. It's scary.
Yeah, but in that space, we are not there, right? If we are there, like if any thought is there in that space, then we will know that what is there. It means we are absent in that gap.
Yeah, we are afraid of being absent until we get used to it, of course, through practice. We're afraid of being absent. Like one teacher says, a coward is someone who is afraid of space, afraid of the gap, afraid of being without thoughts. Of course, ego is very clever. It can then make that into a spiritual experience and say, wow, I had a few seconds without thoughts. How wonderful. And then try and perpetuate it. But that is just ambition. That is ambition. And again, the ego perpetuating itself through competitiveness, ambition, expectation, hope. These are all ways we are building ourselves up and avoiding the basic space and avoiding what Buddhism would say is the basic fact that the solid I, me, mine never existed, doesn't exist, and never will exist. It's a total fantasy. It's a total hallucination. It's a hallucination, but we're maintaining it very well because, you know, paranoia is very effective. As long as we're paranoid, we really do believe certain nonsensical things. So we are insane. We have to accept that. And that helps us also, as I mentioned last session and have before, helps us develop compassion for other people. Because I'm not the only one who's insane. All of you are insane as well, you know, unless there's a few Buddhas there, in which case, congratulations, and, you know, all the rest of it. But we're all insane. We're all suffering. So that means even the guy who irritates you the most is also insane and suffering. And tragically has the Buddha potential within him or her and is unaware of it and is behaving like a total idiot, not knowing that they're actually potentially Buddha. So how sad? What could be sadder than that? You know, and we're doing it too. What could be sadder than that? May I ask how to be perpetually in that state of mind where we delink from the past memories and accept the present moment as it is? Well, for some it's rock and roll, for others it's sex, for others it's a very strong gin and tonic, several of them, and for some people it's meditation. So you take your pick, but for meditation then you need a good instructor and some more patience. It will take more time than the sex, drugs, rock and roll. That could be quite quick, but also damaging to your health. So yeah, how to be in the present moment is through practice. Meditation practice again and again and again and again, without heavy expectations, with a relaxed state of mind. stillness, and awareness, just like the Buddha teaches. There is nothing new under the sun being taught here. It's not like there's some new 21st century miraculous cure to our problems, you know, because we're evolving and we're so intelligent now and we have, you know, smartphones and AI. I'm sorry, there's no new way that is being discovered to properly be, as you say, in the present moment. How to de-link from the past memories. We don't need to de-link from the past memories, by the way, Mr. Chawla. We just need to work with them intelligently and not go up and down depending on the past memories. Because today I have to say, I wasn't much affected by going back in the past. There was just a sense of, I don't know, that subtle kind of sadness when you see things which have changed a lot. It wasn't a strong positive or negative or, you know, attachment or deep sort of uncontrollable sadness, nothing like that. Because I was also going past this building called the Super Bazaar, which I remember from its heyday when it was very busy and it had a really good Indian coffee shop in it, you know, coffee center, where a lot of intellectuals and people would hang around, and socialists and, you know, what would today be called urban Naxalites would hang around there drinking very good coffee. And now it's an empty shell, totally falling apart on the outside with, you know, a lot of greenery growing on it, which is nice, but, you know, the building is falling apart. So there's a sadness there. But that's impermanence, isn't it? You know? But it's sometimes quite interesting to look at places where you have experienced them before as very thriving, active, stimulating places, and now they're an empty shell with a rusting lock on the door. Maybe that's what we all turn into later, kind of rusting and getting ready for the grave, yeah. Of course, we're all doing that, by the way. Every one of us is getting closer to death, not further away. And we're an hour and a quarter closer to death since the beginning of this session. That's just how it is, you know? It seems. I am told. I don't totally believe it yet, but I'm told that we're getting closer to death every moment. Yeah. Which reminds me, just check if Vivek, you sent me the name of his mother-in-law who passed away last night. Menuka, yeah, Menuka Lama. So Menuka Lama was this very charming lady from Kalimpong who treated me to an amazing vegetarian meal last August, just last August, right? And now she's dead after lingering sickness. But last year, in August, she seemed okay. Okay enough to, you know, cook an amazing meal and have a really nice conversation with her at her home in Kalimpong. And now she's not there in this particular form. And yeah, leaving 5, 6 children who will miss her. And my friend Vivek, her son-in-law. Yeah, so there we are, yeah. And come and we go. And yet, because the sense of solidity, we really do feel that we're going to hang around. Okay, Anushri has sent something and she likes to give a good full para, so please listen very carefully. So it's extremely difficult to effectively and easily communicate with each other because not only do we experience the same thing differently, but also the same words can hold different significance for 2 different people, indeed. Also, we haven't mastered the art of listening, in which we just listen without our screens of resistance or our own prejudices, pre-formulations, etc. And when we listen with these screens, we listen to the noise of our own mind, right? Have I understood it correctly? I don't know. Also then K here, does it mean Kabir? Maybe not. I think she means Krishnamurti because she's a teacher at Rishi Valley School. Also, then Krishnamurti says that truth cannot be given to you by somebody, it can only be discovered by understanding or awareness of what is. And that is the beginning of wisdom. And then he says that this also releases us from time. What does release from time mean? I didn't understand that part. Oh, I think that's very clear from what we've been saying. But yeah, I can understand it's a strange thing to say to someone that frees us from time. What do you think, Sujitji? Are you listening?
Yes, Kabirji.
What does release from time mean? You're a poet, and poets, I think, understand this. Anushree says she doesn't understand that part. Could you enlighten her, please?
I think it is, as Elliot said. I won't quote
Who the
Elliot,
hell is Elliot? Who's Elliot? For those who don't know.
No, I won't.
Elliot.
I think it is. It basically means that it frees us from the conception of time as we perceive it, having a past, present, future, being in a way engaged in time.
How does it do that? How do we stop being engaged in time?
Oh, well, that's the $1,000,000 question. Right? So this is what Jaddu means when he says that because we haven't mastered the art of being in the present. Once we have mastered that art.
Yes. And what helps us master that art of being in the present?
He has been saying that just be present in the moment, listen. Don't be in the sway of your own biases, of whatever you've accumulated.
Yeah, ये तो समझ गए, लेकिन how to be in the present? What do we need to be in the present, Sujitji?
What we need to be in the present.
What do I need to be in the present? Do I need anything? Does it happen by itself? It seems not, because one is distracted all the time. So what do we need to be in the present moment, right now? For example, right now, what do I need to be in the present? This is
I thought it was just our presence, as in just the focus of being.
Is there another word we use? We've been using a certain word a lot, especially the last session. Does that help? Or is it even true? Can someone help Sujitji now? What helps us? What is essential for being in the present moment? Okay, we need a mind, we need an awareness. And what else? Because usually we have distracted awareness. Attention, my friends, attention. Yeah? Does that make sense? Wasn't a trick question. To be in the present, we need attention. Yeah? Does that make sense? Sujitji, does that make sense? Or is there some other factor?
Yeah. No.
We need to be attentive, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going to be attentive and not be drifting into past or into the, the paneer that Jagdish has made me for supper, I'm going to have to bring my mind to what's happening here on the screen in front of me, and maybe even the sensation of my feet, bare feet on the floor of my bedroom, and the fact that my two hands are on the table in front of me, and I'm kind of gazing in a, towards the screen, but not looking at any person in particular. I have to be aware of these things. Otherwise, my mind is going to be everywhere. Psychological time, meaning going into the past and identifying with it. It becomes part of one's psyche, one's psychology, rather than chronological time, which just means, okay, my bus tomorrow leaves at 9 a.m. and that's it. There's no kind of overlay to that. So that's chronological time, maybe. Because Anushree was asking, or the differences between chronological time and psychological time. And K. Krishnamurti talks about this a lot. So we're talking about how the mind grabs onto things and then makes something of it. That's kind of more psychological time. Sagar, maybe when someone else gives us truth, we struggle to decipher it. Confusion. Is it wrong or right? Does the speaker mean it in the same manner I perceive it? But when I discover something, less drama is there. Yeah, I'm not sure that I understand because, again, words. Sagar, what are you trying to say? या हिंदी में बोलिए जो भी भाषा आपको अच्छा लगे.
Being free from time, उसके रेफरेंस में मैं बोल रहा था.
हाँ, तो कैसे करना है आप? ये जो आप लिखे हैं ना अंग्रेजी में, ये तो मैं बड़ा कंफ्यूज हो रहा हूँ ये पढ़ के. तो आप थोड़ा सा समझा.
अगर आप मेरे को कुछ बताएंगे तो आई विल स्पेंड टाइम ऑन इट कि ऐसा है या वैसा है, किस मैनर में बोल रहे थे और खुद भी मानते हैं नहीं या फिर सिर्फ बोलते हैं, ऐसा कुछ सब कुछ चलता है. बट व्हेन आई डिस्कवर समथिंग फ्रॉम माई सेल्फ, तब एक अजीब सा कॉन्फिडेंस होता है. ओके, दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव डिस्कवर्ड. सो वो एक टाइम आई थिंक थोड़ा कम स्पेंड होता है आउटसाइड देखने में कि लोग क्या कहेंगे, और
बिल्कुल
उस वे में मैं बोल रहा था. उस वे में मे बी
एक काइंड ऑफ यूरेका मोमेंट होता है कि हाँ अब मैं समझ गया हूँ, और आप समझ गए ना, क्योंकि बुद्ध तो इतने सैकड़ों लोगों से मिला और कई वहाँ उस जमाने के ऋषि मुनि से बात भी की है, शिक्षा भी ली है. लेकिन जब वो बोधि वृक्ष के नीचे जग गए, वो तो खुद जग गए ना. वो तो अपने मेहनत से, अपने मतलब कोई उनको हेडफोन्स तो नहीं थे ना कि कुछ सुन रहे थे अपने गुरु के या ऐसा कुछ. वो तो खुद अपने को जगा है, आप कह सकते हैं. वो खुद जग गए अपने मेहनत करके. तो या ऑफ कोर्स, और उस समय या इट्स बेसमय का क्षण है वो. I don't know if that's good Hindi. A moment of timelessness, yeah, because time doesn't enter that equation then. Yeah, if you had a clock next to Buddha, it would be ticking away, but that's chronological time. Psychological time, that's different. And Buddha, before he got enlightened, he saw back into hundreds, thousands of his lives. What do we make of that? You know? Yeah. What kind of time is that? It said great bodhisattvas even can be in these weird kind of samadhis where they're in many, many kind of different time zones at once. It means that time is something just constructed by, due to labeling and conception. And at a certain level of realization, it doesn't mean very much. And we have timeless moments, for heaven's sake, when you are watching your favorite football team, engaging in exquisite build-up to a brilliant goal, there is no time. You're not looking at the time. You may have forgotten that you're supposed to phone someone at that time. You are just watching that exquisite, piece of football or whatever. Or you're a poet and you're writing your poem, or you're, engaging in your creative act. There is no time, and your mother keeps on telling you your food is getting cold, but for you, time has ended. Because you are paying attention to the act of creation in the present moment, right? If we're aware of our surroundings too, does it mean that we can still be paying attention to what the speaker is saying? Well, there could be a kind of panoramic awareness. It depends. If it's your favorite film star that you're looking at the same time as listening to the speaker, then I think you might gradually find that what the speaker is saying is becoming less and less clear, and your attention has gone to your favorite film star. So it depends. It depends, doesn't it, Yogesh? If they're just some birds chirruping in the background, maybe that won't make so much difference. If it's your next door neighbor whom you hate, you hear them speaking, then I think you would be totally distracted for a little while. and you wouldn't be hearing you wouldn't be paying attention to the speaker. He uses the word struggle, Anushri says. Kay uses it. He says, struggle ends when we just see what is. Here, here. And can we say that what is over here can mean or represent the four seals or the four? What is what is, whatever is happening right now. Right now, that is what is. If you're experiencing discomfort or pain, that is what is. If you've been taken back into the past, that is also, in a sense, what is right now for you. But these are all things we can think more about. But let's not get too much into timelessness, because then we might forget the nitty-gritty necessity of having to engage in certain analytical actions in the present, which are necessary to begin to deconstruct the machinery which keeps on producing unwholesome thoughts, according to Shantideva. And we're free to disagree with him. You know, there's no law against disagreeing with Shantideva. I mean, he's long gone anyway, so he's not going to take you to court. But we have to investigate what he's saying, investigate the power of pure, good, old-fashioned, positive thinking, good thoughts, experiment. In the morning when we wake up, experiment. We can do that, can't we? Try and have a text where you can remind yourself of very noble, good, uplifting thoughts. See what that does for your morning or whatever. Or you can choose other kinds of thoughts, comparing yourself with people who are more beautiful or handsome you think than you, or intelligent, or wealthy, or have a nicer, view. Do that. Start, generate some good, lust or jealousy or anger against someone, and what does that do for us? So there's some good old-fashioned stuff we must not neglect. Sagar bhai.
Kabirji, like Nitya said, that what if the word actually is based on selfishness?
What is the word based on?
That the word is really based on selfishness. कि ऐसा ही है, me, that's how it works. Yeah. What if it is like that? Yes. But okay, if it is like that, but if I'm not happy with it, then what to do then? I think Buddha is saying that, okay, there is a way.
Well, then we become interested in the spiritual path. And people who say, I understand your problem. Buddha says, I understand your problem. There's a cause, and here's the recipe. Here's the way to get out of it. Buddha understands our problem. I think, of course, we don't know that yet, some of us, so we have to study what the Buddha said. After a while, I think we begin to understand that this guy is being totally honest with us. He understood our problem, and he's giving it to us straight. He's not using euphemism. He's being straight. He's saying, this is what is wrong. This is why you suffer. So we feel grateful to someone who is not saying, talking about bliss and enlightenment. In the beginning, he's telling us we're sick, insane. That's what we need to hear. And he knows why we're insane. And that's reassuring in a way, although we're not sure yet, are we? Because we haven't practiced what he says. So we're not sure that the guy knows what he's talking about. But we may have some inkling to follow what he says, study more. And then we find more and more confidence. And then we might meet some people who seem to be less insane than we are. And we think, wow, that's nice, that this person seems to have something. And then they tell you, oh, I'm a Buddhist, actually. And I do this and this practice. You say, oh, very good. So then you develop a bit more, trust, or at least curiosity to check out this weird thing, religion or whatever it is called Buddhism, for which there is no word in Tibetan, by the way. Their word for Buddhism means just their word for a Buddhist is translates into English as inner being. An inner being, someone who's looking inside, discovering some truths inside, not fascinated by the external show. So that's also interesting. Nangbao or Nangpa or something. Inner being. And dharam is an interesting word, just phenomena, truth, path. So we have a lot of isms in the English language, but there seems to be more subtle in Sanskrit than Tibetan, more to the point. So why am I talking about this? I have no idea. I've forgotten where I started. Sorry, Sagar, it started with something you said, and I've gone on and on. I'm sorry. I'll stop. We have a few minutes left. Any of the silent majority like to say something? Nivita ji, Ajay, Chirag, Vishad bhai. Vishad, you're very quiet today. How are you? Let me see you. You always have such a calm countenance. In the early days, I thought you were a cardboard cutout of yourself. You were so still. Now you seem to move a little more. Is that a gun? No, that's not a gun on your t-shirt, is it? It's an F, is it? Is it an F or a T?
Yes, Kabirji.
This
is just a logo of TechFest.
I see. And what's that behind you on your left or your right? There's a blue book or blue something?
Oh, this.
Kya hai? Oh, wow. Be kind, be brave, be smart, be bold, be yourself.
Just a reminder.
ये slogans किसने दिया आपको?
कौन सा slogan, Kabirji?
यही, they are good Dharma slogans.
ये मुझे नॉर्बोलिंका के पास एक शॉप थी, वहां से काफी इंटरेस्टिंग लगा मुझे, तो मैं ले आया.
तो वहां के बनिया लोग भी यही सोच रहे हैं, ये तो बढ़िया बात है. वाह, good. As we say, as my mantra, as you know, that I've been expounding, is, slow down, pay attention. Do good work. Love your neighbor. Love your place. Stay in your place. Settle for less. Enjoy it more. Anyway, thought I'd say that for those who hadn't heard it before. This is from an introduction to a book of essays by a very wonderful modern farmer poet. Spectator of the modern scene. Or just a few more minutes.
What's his name or her name?
The name of the person who wrote the introduction was Paul Kingsnorth, but he was introducing essays by Wendell Berry. Wendell Berry. He's a poet and a farmer who has a farm in Kentucky, USA. Marvelous, extraordinary writer, poet, who gave up prospect of quite a career in New York as a poet and some fame. He let go of that and said, no, I want to go back and restore my ancestral land in Kentucky, which he did. So he's a voice of sanity in the modern wilderness of selfishness and speedy agriculture and devastation, devastating modern methodologies. He's a voice of sanity and a very good poet. Do you have a poem of his at hand, Sujit ji, you could share with us?
I have one of his collections, but I don't know which poem to.
Of course you do. You're very good at picking things out of a hat. And I can't find it right now. Is it in front of you on the shelf?
Yes, it's in front of me.
Happens to be, right.
Well,
so pick that one where he.
I'll recite the piece of vile things because it just opened to that particular page. I'll recite the piece of vile things.
Oh, wonderful! Recite it slowly and in your best British voice, okay?
Okay. So this poem is called "The Piece of Vile Things," and it's from an early collection of his called, I think it was called Offerings. It was a 1968 collection. The peace of vile things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of vile things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Since we'll end it with another poem, which I will read from a famous poem by great American poetess called Mary Oliver, who passed away. When did she pass away, Sudhiti? Not long ago, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is from New and Selected Poems, Volume 1. I've read it before, but mainly during the COVID years, 2021, I read this a few times. So we'll read this and then we'll dedicate for Vivek's mother-in-law and the other dedication. This is called Wild Geese. So please, are you sitting comfortably? If you are, I'll begin. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Okay, so we dedicate this session. Thank you to everybody for participating, either silently or with your thoughts and questions. So we dedicate it first and foremost to Menuka Lama, the mother of Vijay, mother-in-law of Vivek ji, who is participant in some of our sessions at Tushita and online. So she passed away in Kalimpong last night. May she find some guidance in the traumatic, potentially traumatic passage from life to life, so-called intermediate state or bhardo. She was a Christian but very open-minded, I think. So may she find the kind of signposts on the way that will help her. So we dedicate for her to have a safe and happy passage to whatever comes next. In Buddhist, in our tradition, we'd say, may she have a perfect, precious human rebirth, where she's able to connect with authentic spiritual teachings and have a good human life. Then we dedicate for all of us to have long and happy lives and to benefit through listening, reflecting, and meditating on authentic teachings, authentic dharma. May we be introduced to authentic dharma by at least reasonably authentic and well-motivated people. And if possible, may we meet with highly realized beings who can guide us perfectly. So may we have these opportunities life to life. So may we keep on creating the causes for human lives in good situation. And meanwhile, may we benefit others as much as possible, because the world is suffering, beings are suffering. May even hearing our name or the sight of us bring peace and happiness to beings, plant the seeds of their awakening. And this refers to anybody, even people who hate us. May they benefit from their knowing us. They need to know us to hate us, right? So may they benefit. May all our teachers have long and healthy lives, and may all their Dharma wishes be fulfilled. Okay, so please remember for those who have time, the shamatha session tomorrow morning, which is basically a way of introducing us to some kind of basic sanity through stabilizing and stabilizing the mind. And Nivitaji will explain that more. So, and meanwhile, also thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Subhiji, for the poem.
Sorry, say that again, Kabirji.
What's that?
Say that again, Kabirji.
What, the whole thing?
No, I just didn't hear what you said. It got cut a little
Oh,
bit.
I said that you will explain the niceties of shamatha in the morning if necessary.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Of course, it's a vast topic. And anyway.
Yeah, little by little.
Yeah, little by little. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much. Good night.
Shalom, Kabir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Kabirji.
Thank you.
Slowly.
Thank you.
Chew your brown rice well. Yeah, bye.